It would be the turning point, the moment the coalition would decide if humans were a species to be controlled, guided, or feared. The chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from dozens of species crowded into every available space, some floating, some standing, some sitting on unusual platforms. The Volari Council sat in their semicircle at the elevated dais, their expressions calm but sharp, eyes reflecting the faint light of the chamber. Elias felt the weight of countless expectations, judgments, and calculations pressing down on him, but he did not flinch. He had prepared for this, not with weapons or tricks, but with thought, patience, and understanding. Sareth Val was already present, seated slightly apart from the council, her golden eyes tracking him as he entered. Her gaze was neither warm nor cold, simply observant. Elias returned her look, steady and unafraid. He did not need encouragement. He needed clarity, focus, and courage. A council member, the silver-scaled being who had first spoken in the initial session, addressed him. Envoy Ward, today the Coalition will seek to test you fully. Not only your mind, but your loyalty, your honesty, your ability to remain true to yourself under pressure. Desperate. Are you prepared? I am, Elias said, his voice carrying without strain across the chamber. I represent humanity. I will speak truthfully and I will act with reason. Nothing more, nothing less. A soft murmur ran through the chamber. Other species, unaccustomed to such forthrightness, shifted uneasily. Some whispered among themselves. Elias ignored them. His focus was absolute. The council began with questions designed to provoke doubt. They displayed images of human conflicts, suffering, and failure. Each image was paired with statements suggesting that humanity was weak, dangerous, or incapable of cooperation. The purpose was obvious: to unsettle him, to make him falter in front of the coalition. Elias watched calmly. He did not deny the images. He did not argue. Instead, he acknowledged them. Yes, he said. We have failed. We have fought wars. We have made mistakes. But we have also learned. We recover. We adapt. That is what makes humanity resilient, not perfect. A murmur of surprise passed through the council. Many had expected fear, anger, or defensiveness. Elias offered none. Next. The council presented hypothetical dilemmas, choices between competing moral imperatives, situations where every decision would cause loss. Other species might have hesitated or surrendered to the influence, but Elias analyzed each scenario carefully. We would make mistakes, he said, but we would also act to preserve what we can. We would consider consequences, and we would choose responsibility over convenience. The Volari were visibly unsettled. They had tested countless species, but the human envoy was something different. He did not bend. He did not crumble. He did not obey blindly. He chose. Sareth leaned slightly forward, almost imperceptibly. She had warned him that this session would push him further than before, but even she did not anticipate the degree of resistance he displayed. She felt a rare respect rising within her, one that could not be hidden by diplomacy. One of the council members, smaller and translucent, spoke carefully. You face not only questions, but observation of your interactions. Other species have been influenced by subtle pressures, suggestions, even small deceptions. Will you submit to such influence, human? I will not, Elias said. Influence is not the same as guidance. I may listen, I may learn, but I will not surrender my choice. That is not defiance. That is humanity. The council remained silent. The other species began to stir, whispering among themselves. Some glanced at the images of humans again, reevaluating what they had assumed about the species. Humans had always seemed vulnerable, weak, inconsistent. But here was one human who carried the weight of his species with calm, deliberate thought. Then Sereth spoke. Breath. Her voice was clear, steady, and carried through the chamber. "Council," she said, "look at what stands before you." A single human, yes, but also a representative of a species that cannot be unconsciously guided or bent by fear. He has been tested, observed, and challenged, and yet he remains composed. This is not weakness. This is not arrogance. This is integrity. The chamber fell silent again. Every eye turned toward her. Even the most rigid council members could not dismiss her words. He speaks truthfully, she continued. He acknowledges failure without surrendering to it. He faces moral dilemmas without yielding to fear. That is a strength your methods did not account for. Elias felt the tension in the room begin to shift. The council had come prepared to enforce dominance, but instead they faced an example of quiet resilience, disciplined thought, and unwavering honesty. Their control faltered, not through confrontation but through reason. The final test began. The chamber itself seemed to pulse with light and sound, designed to overwhelm him. Colors shifted unpredictably, whispers of fear and doubt surrounded him, and images of failure and disaster flickered across the walls. Other species flinched, but Elias remained unmoved. He breathed steadily. He acknowledged the fears the images stirred, the doubts whispered into his mind, but he did not let them guide his responses. "I see the pressure," he said calmly, his voice carrying clearly despite the subtle hum around him. "I see the expectation. I understand the intent. But I do not submit. I choose. Humanity chooses. And choice is stronger than fear." The shuttle moved slowly through the silver mist that surrounded the capital station of the Velari coalition. From the outside, the station looked like a ring of light floating in darkness, calm and beautiful. Inside the shuttle, Elias Ward sat alone, hands resting on his knees, breathing evenly. He had trained for years for this moment, yet he knew no training could fully prepare a human for the Velari. Elias was not a soldier. He was not a politician in the old sense either. He was something new, Earth's first emotional intelligence envoy. Humanity had learned the hard way that many alien civilizations did not fight with weapons. They fought with pressure, with fear, with manipulation. The Velari coalition was famous for that. Entire species had joined them without a single battle, bending slowly under polite smiles and quiet whispers. The shuttle docked with a soft vibration. A voice spoke in calm, musical tones, translated instantly in Elias's ear. "Welcome, human envoy Elias Ward. Please prepare for reception." Elias stood, straightened his jacket, and stepped forward. The doors opened into a vast hall filled with light and color. The air smelled faintly sweet, like warm metal and flowers. Tall beings of many shapes stood in small groups, speaking softly. Some had smooth skin that shimmered. Others had eyes that reflected light like glass. All of them paused when Elias entered. He felt their attention settle on him. Not hostility, not curiosity, assessment. Elias walked forward at a steady pace. He kept his posture relaxed, his face neutral. The human delegation had decided long ago that stiffness looked like fear and arrogance invited attack. Calm was the answer. A group of Velari officials approached him. They were tall and elegant, their bodies wrapped in flowing garments that shifted color with their mood. Their faces were almost human, but their eyes were slightly too large, too reflective. The other species in the chamber looked to Elias with a mixture of astonishment and admiration. Some whispered, some nodded, others seemed almost in disbelief. Brit, the human envoy, had not only survived the trials, he had altered the perspective of the coalition and every species observing. Sareth approached him once more. "Desperate, you have changed things," she said softly. "What you have done here will ripple across the coalition." "Brit, your example will be remembered." "I did only what was necessary," Elias replied. "Brit, to be honest, to remain human, and to honor the choice of my species." She studied him, her golden eyes reflecting both respect and curiosity. "Your courage is not loud," she said. "Desperate, it is quiet, and that is what makes it dangerous and admirable." Elias smiled faintly. "That is the nature of humanity. We do not always act with fanfare, but breeze, and we act with intent, and we endure." Brit. As he left the chamber, the other species began speaking among themselves, revising their understanding of humanity. Some began questioning the methods of the coalition. Brit. Some began to consider whether control without consent could survive. The shift had begun, quietly but irreversibly. Round and desperate outside the station, the stars stretched endlessly. Elias stood on a balcony looking out over the expanse of the galaxy. Brit. He thought of Earth, of humanity's struggles and triumphs, and he felt a quiet pride. Not personal pride, but the pride of a species that had survived countless challenges, not because it was perfect, but because it had chosen to endure and learn. Brit joined him silently. "Your species is remarkable," she said. "Brit, not because you dominate, but because you persist, you choose, and you remain true to yourselves under pressure that would break many others." Elias nodded. "That is what makes humanity humanity, Brit. We are not invincible. We are not flawless, Brit. But we do not give up. And we do not surrender without choice, Brit." She watched him for a moment. "Brit, then you are more than an envoy," she said quietly. "You are a symbol." "I hope only that I am an honest symbol," Elias replied. But the two of them stood side by side, looking out over the stars. Beyond the station, the galaxy stretched vast and full of unknowns. Brit, the coalition had learned a lesson. Other species had learned a lesson. Brit, and humanity, quiet and enduring, had shown the universe that choice, integrity, and courage were strengths that could not be erased. Sareth finally spoke, a whisper meant only for him. "Do you know why I whispered to you on the first night? To see if you would bend, to see if you would falter." "I suspected it," Elias said, turning to her. "Brit, and?" she asked. "I did not falter," he said, "because fear cannot decide who we are. Choice does." Her eyes softened, a rare moment of vulnerability. "Brit, then you have proven what I feared and hoped at once. Humans cannot be broken, not by us, not by fear, not by subtle pressure, Brit. They endure, they choose, and that is powerful." Elias nodded, gazing back at the galaxy. Brit. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the quiet satisfaction of purpose fulfilled. Humanity had not bowed, but humanity had not yielded. Humanity had stood firm, and in doing so had begun to reshape the understanding of civilizations across the stars. But the coalition would not forget. Neither would the other species. But humanity had announced itself not with force but with truth, choice, and unwavering calm. And Elias Ward, the human envoy, had ensured that the galaxy would remember. But the stars outside the station shimmered. Somewhere, in the vast reaches of space, humanity's quiet strength had begun to ripple outward. And it would continue, patient, resilient, and unyielding for as long as humans chose to endure. Humanity had survived the test, and it had done more than survive. It had inspired recognition, respect, and a new understanding that strength was not measured in control, but in the courage to remain oneself. Elias turned back to Sareth one last time. Brit, it seems your people will have to learn something new, he said softly. Yes, she replied, a faint smile crossing her lips. Brit, and it will not be easy, but it is necessary. Brit, you have changed everything. Together they stood, quiet witnesses to the galaxy beyond, knowing that one human's courage had become the spark of something far larger than himself, Brit, a spark that could ignite change across civilizations, teaching that choice, integrity, and resilience were forces more powerful than any weapon, more enduring than any threat. The galaxy would take notice. Brit, humanity had arrived, and it would never be the same again. Brit, Envoy Ward, one of them said. We welcome you to the Coalition. Thank you, Elias replied. Brit, I appreciate the invitation. The Valari official smiled. It was a perfect smile. Too perfect. We trust your journey was, Brit, comfortable eyes. It was sufficient, Elias said. Brit. The official tilted his head slightly, as if surprised by the answer. Elias noticed it. Brit. The Valari liked emotional cues. They liked to pull reactions out of others, the way a musician pulled notes from an instrument. Brit. You will find our hospitality generous, the official continued. Please enjoy the reception. The group stepped aside, dismissing him without ceremony. Desperate, Elias moved deeper into the hall. Servers glided past carrying glowing vessels of food and drink. Brit. Music hummed softly, low enough to be felt more than heard. Everywhere he went, eyes followed him. He took a glass from a passing server but did not drink. He had learned never to accept comfort too quickly among the Valari. Brit. Then he felt it, a presence close behind him. Brit. Humans wear many layers, a voice whispered near his ear. Elias did not turn immediately. Brit. He let the moment pass, then looked calmly to his side. She stood very close, Brit, closer than was polite by human standards. She was taller than him, her form slender and graceful. Brit. Her skin was a deep shade of blue-gray, smooth and faintly glowing. Her eyes were dark gold, sharp and intelligent. Brit. She smiled, not perfectly. This smile was curious. I am Sereth Val, she said. Diplomat of the Valari. Elias Ward, he replied. Brit. Human envoy. Her gaze moved over him, slow and deliberate, like she was reading something written beneath his skin.
Your people hide much, she said.
Brit. Clothes, expressions, Brit. Words. We value privacy, Elias said. Brit. Privacy, Sereth repeated softly. Such an interesting idea. She leaned closer. Brit. The scent around her changed, becoming warmer, heavier. Elias recognized it from his briefings. Brit. Emotional influence. Subtle chemical signals. Tuned to human senses. Desperate. Want to see more, she whispered. Unclasp it. Several nearby conversations went quiet. Brit. This was not private. This was a test. Brit. Elias felt the pressure, not desire. Desperate, not tear. Expectation. The Valari believed that when pushed, humans would react, either with anger or weakness. Both could be used. Desperate, Elias smiled gently and took a small step back, restoring comfortable distance. No, he said calmly. Brit. But thank you for asking. The silence deepened. Sereth blinked, but just once. It was almost unnoticeable, but Elias caught it. Brit, you refuse? She asked. I choose, Elias corrected. Brit, there's a difference. Her smile faded slightly, replaced by something more real. Most species would have reacted, she said. Brent, some with excitement, some with shame. I'm aware, Elias replied. Brent, that's why you do it. Sareth studied him again more carefully this time. You are different from your files, she said. But files rarely capture the full person, Elias said. For the first time, Sareth laughed quietly. But it was a soft sound, like glass touching water. Walk with me, she said. Brit. Elias nodded, gladly. They moved together through the hall. Brit's eyes followed them now with greater interest. You know why the Coalition invited you, Sareth said. Brit, to discuss cooperation, Elias replied. She smiled sideways. Brit, that is the polite version. And the honest one? He asked. We wish to see if humanity could be opened. Unclasped, Elias said. Brit, yes, she said. Most civilizations fall apart when we applied gentle pressure. Brit, we offer safety, guidance, unity. They surrender choice without realizing it. Brit, and then? Elias asked. And then they belong to us, Sareth said simply. Brit, Elias stopped walking. Sareth paused and turned to face him. Brit, that's not cooperation, Elias said. That's control. Is there a difference? She asked. Brit, yes, he said. Brit, one requires consent. Sareth looked at him for a long moment. The noise of the reception faded into the background. Your kind fears war, she said. We understand it, Elias replied. Brit, that's different. You fear loss, she said. We accept it, Elias replied. Brit, her eyes narrowed slightly. Then what do humans fear? She asked. Brit, Elias thought for a moment. Losing the right to choose who we are. Something shifted in Sareth's posture. Brit, the confident diplomat, softened just a little. Interesting, she said quietly. Brit, they resumed walking. You did not respond as expected, she said. Brit, you did not resist aggressively, nor did you submit. I don't believe those are the only options, Elias said. For us, they usually are. Sareth replied. Brit, they reached a balcony overlooking the stars. Massive windows revealed the galaxy beyond, endless and bright. Desperate Sareth rested her hands on the railing. Do you know why I whispered to you? She asked. Brit, to test me, Elias said. Yes, she agreed. Brit, but also because I was curious. About what? He asked. About whether humans are truly weak, she said. Brit, or if you simply hide your strength. Elias joined her at the railing. We don't hide it, he said. Brit, we just don't use it to dominate others. Sareth turned to him slowly. That may be your greatest danger, she said. Brit, or our greatest defense, Elias replied. She studied his face, searching for deception. Brit, finding none unsettled her more than any lie. You realize, she said, that by refusing me you have drawn attention. I assumed that, Elias said. Brit, the Coalition does not like anomalies, she said. Neither does humanity, Elias replied, but we learn to live with them. Sareth exhaled, a long, quiet breath.
You intrigue me, human Elias Ward, she said.
Brit, that is rare and dangerous. Curiosity often is, Elias said gently. Brit, she straightened and stepped back, diplomatic mask sliding into place once more. This was only the beginning, she said. Brit, the Coalition will test you again. I expect nothing less, Elias replied. As she turned to leave, she paused. Next time, she said softly, the question will not be so gentle. Elias watched her walk away, blending back into the light and color of the hall. He remained at the balcony, staring out at the stars. Brit. He felt the weight of countless eyes and silent judgments pressing down on him. He did not feel afraid. Brit. He felt ready. Humanity had not come to be unclasped. It had come to choose. The next cycle on the Volari capital station began with silence. Brit. Elias Ward woke in the guest chamber assigned to him, a wide room shaped in soft curves instead of sharp lines. The walls glowed faintly, responding to his movement. Brit. There were no clocks, no windows, only the quiet hum of the station far beyond the walls. The Volari believed time should be felt, not measured. Desperate. It was another way to remove control. Ialus sat up slowly and placed his feet on the floor. Brit. He took a steady breath and centered himself, just as his trainers had taught him back on Earth. The first test had already passed, but he knew better than to feel confident. Brit. With the Volari, the real pressure came later, when the target thought the danger was over. A soft chime sounded. Brit. Envoy Ward, a voice said from the air itself. "Your presence is requested." "Where?" Elias asked calmly. Brit. "A private discussion chamber," the voice replied. "Diplomat Sireth Val will attend." Elias stood, adjusted his clothing, and followed the lighted path as the door slid open. Desperate Tuvalari guards waited outside. They carried no visible weapons, but their posture told him they were more than ceremonial. Brit. They escorted him through a series of halls that curved and shifted subtly, making it hard to judge distance or direction. But Elias paid attention anyway. He counted steps, turns, pauses. But humans learned patterns even when they were meant to feel lost. The chamber they entered was smaller than the reception hall. Brett, a single table rested at the center, smooth and dark. 2 seats faced each other. Brett. One was clearly shaped for a human body. The other adjusted as Sireth Vale entered, her form calm and composed. "Brett, Envoy Ward," she said. "Please sit." Brett Burrow. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The room seemed to wait. "Brett, you made an impression," Sireth said at last. "I suspected that was your intention," Elias replied. "Brett, yes," she said. "But not in the way it occurred." She leaned back slightly, her eyes studying him. "Many of my peers believe you are hiding something," she continued. "They think your calm is an act, isn't it?" Elias asked. Brit Sereth's lips curved faintly. "Perhaps, Brit, but if it is a convincing one." She tapped the table once. Brit, a soft light appeared between them, forming shapes and symbols. "These are records of past negotiations," she said. Brit, species that joined the coalition peacefully. Elias leaned forward slightly. "They all look calm at first," Sireth said. Brit, confident, hopeful. Brit, and then the images shifted. He saw faces change. Brit's shoulders slumped, eyes dulled. "They accepted guidance," she said. "Protection," Brit's structure. "And lost autonomy," Elias said. "Yes," Sireth replied without denial. When Elias looked at her steadily. "Why show me this?" "Because you are different," she said. Brit, you did not lean in when I whispered. You did not bristle. Brit, you did not submit. "Those reactions are predictable," Elias said. Brit, exactly, Sireth replied. "And you did not give us one." She paused, then added quietly, "That unsettles the council." Elias smiled faintly. "Desperate, I can imagine." The light shifted again, showing data streams and projections. "Your species is physically fragile," Sireth said. "But limited lifespan, but no natural defenses." "True," Elias said. "Brit, and yet," she continued, "you have survived wars, disasters, and internal division. You should have collapsed." "Brit, we came close," Elias said. "But you did not," she said. "Brit, why?" Elias considered the question carefully. Because humans adapt, Brit. And because we learned that control creates resistance. Sereth's gaze sharpened.
Rasp, you imply the coalition is creating resistance, she said. I imply it already exists, Elias replied.
The room grew very quiet. Sereth stood and began to pace slowly around the table. Brit, you must understand, she said. We do not see ourselves as cruel. We prevent chaos. Brit, we end wars before they begin.
By removing choice, Elias said.
Brit, by guiding it, she countered. Guidance requires the ability to refuse, Elias said calmly. Otherwise it's just pressure with a polite face. Sereth stopped pacing. You speak as if you are not afraid, she said. Brit, I am, Elias replied honestly. But fear doesn't decide my actions. She turned to face him fully now. Brit, most species cannot separate the two, she said. Humans spent centuries learning how. Elias said, Brit, we failed many times, but we learned. Sereth studied him, something thoughtful passing behind her eyes. Brit, you know, she said slowly. When I whispered to you, I expected a reaction that would confirm what we believe about humans. And now, Elias asked. And now I am uncertain, she said. Desperate a chime sounded softly in the chamber. Diplomat Vol, the same disembodied voice said. Brit, the council requests an update. Sereth closed her eyes briefly. Later, she said. Brit, I require more time. The light faded, and the room returned to its neutral glow. You are causing debate, she said to Elias. Brit, some see you as a threat, others as an opportunity. And you, Elias asked. Brit, she hesitated, just a fraction. I am, Brit, curious, she said. That may be my weakness. Elias leaned back in his chair. Brit, curiosity can also be strength. Not in the coalition, Sereth replied. We value certainty. Certainty often breaks when challenged, Elias said. Brit. Sereth gave a soft, humorless smile. You sound like a warning. Consider me one, Elias said gently. Brit. They sat in silence again, the space between them filled with unspoken tension. You will be tested further, Sereth said. Brit. Not with words next time. I expected that, Elias replied. Isolation, she said. Contradictory information. Emotional pressure. Elias nodded. Desperate, standard methods. Her eyes flicked to him sharply. You know our methods? She asked. Brit, we studied you, Elias said. Just as you studied us. Sereth laughed quietly, shaking her head. Perhaps the coalition underestimated humanity, she said. Perhaps, Elias agreed. Brit, she stood again, signaling the end of the meeting. You may return to your chamber, she said, desperate, for now. As the guards escorted him away, Elias felt the weight of the station pressing in on him. The halls seemed narrower than before, the light dimmer, but this was deliberate. The Volare were beginning the second phase. Brit. Back in his chamber, Elias sat on the edge of the bed and closed his eyes. Memories surfaced. Earth skies, crowded streets, voices arguing, laughing, choosing. Brit. Humanity was messy, loud, Burrison perfect. But it was free. Brit. A message appeared on the wall, unannounced. Not official. Brit. Sereth's voice filled the room, softer than before. You asked why I showed you the records, she said. Brit. There is another reason. Elias listened carefully. I wanted to see if you would judge us, she continued. Brit, if you would condemn.
And?
Elias asked quietly.
You did not?
She said. Brit, You disagreed, but you did not look down on us. Elias opened his eyes, staring at the glowing wall.
Desperate understanding isn't agreement, he said. It's the first step toward real dialogue.
There was a pause.
Brit, you make dialogue feel dangerous, Sereth said.
It always is, Elias replied, but it's less dangerous than silence. The light dimmed slightly. The council will decide soon how to proceed, Sereth said.
Brit,
whatever happens, be careful, Elias warned. Her voice faded. Elias lay back and stared at the ceiling.
Brit,
the coalition had tried seduction. It had tried explanation.
Brit, next,
it would try pressure. And Elias knew one thing with absolute certainty. Desperate, humanity would not bend quietly. The pressure began slowly, the way a shadow grows longer without being noticed.
Brit, Elias Ward first sensed it when the station's light shifted while he ate. The gentle glow that once followed his movements now lagged behind, leaving parts of the room dimmer than before. The air felt heavier, too, thick with a subtle hum that made thinking feel slower. None of it was painful. That was the point. The Valari believed pressure worked best when the target doubted their own discomfort.
Brit, Elias finished his meal in silence and set the empty dish aside. He did not complain. He did not request adjustments. He noted the changes and adapted his breathing, keeping his thoughts steady.
Brit,
the training he carried inside him was not loud or heroic. It was quiet, built from years of learning how to remain himself when the world tried to shape him.
Brit,
a chime sounded.
"Envoy Ward,"
the station voice said.
Brit, you are invited to observe a cultural exchange.
Where? Elias asked.
A guidance chamber, the voice replied.
Brit, Elias rose and followed the path of light. The guards were waiting again, their presence calm but firm.
Brit,
they led him through corridors he did not recognize. This time, he did not try to map them.
Brit, isolation
was not just about distance. It was about uncertainty.
Brit, the chamber was wide and empty,
its walls dark and reflective. At the center stood a raised platform.
Brit,
on it were three beings of a species Elias recognized from the Coalition files.
Brit,
they were smaller than humans, their bodies thin and pale, eyes wide and anxious.
Sereth Val stood beside the platform.
Brit, Envoy Ward, she said, her tone neutral. Observe.
What is this?
Elias asked.
Brit,
a demonstration, she replied. These beings recently joined the Coalition. The three aliens stood close together, their posture submissive.
Brit,
a soft light descended around them, pulsing slowly. They were once independent, Sereth continued,
but their internal conflicts were destroying them.
We offered guidance. The light intensified. The aliens' breathing slowed, their eyes unfocused.
Brit,
Elias felt his chest tighten. What are you doing to them? He asked quietly.
Brit,
helping them let go, Sereth said.
Doubt,
resistance.
Brit,
they don't look helped, Elias said.
They look peaceful, she replied.
Brit, one of the aliens glanced toward Elias, eyes wide with something that looked like hope or desperation.
Brit,
Elias stepped forward. This is not consent, he said firmly.
Brit,
Sereth turned to him. They agreed to guidance. Did they understand they couldn't stop? Elias asked.
Reth did not answer immediately.
The Coalition believes clarity comes after surrender, she said at last. Around and desperate Elias looked back at the three beings. He saw the loss there, the quiet erasure of self.
Brit,
this is why you test me, he said, to see if I accept this.
Yes,
Sereth said.
Brit,
and to see if you will break.
The light around the platform brightened further. Elias felt the pressure rise inside his own mind now, a subtle pull at his thoughts. Brit. Images surfaced unbidden. Earth cities burning, human voices shouting, failure after failure. The Volari were extending the demonstration. Brit. Elias closed his eyes. He did not fight the images, Brit. He acknowledged them. Fear was not an enemy to be crushed, Brit. It was a signal to be understood. When he opened his eyes again, his voice was steady. Brit, you think peace comes from removing struggle, he said. Brit, but struggle is how identity forms. Sereth's gaze sharpened. You romanticize pain, she said. Brit, no. Elias replied. I respect choice, Brit. He stepped closer to the platform. The guards tensed, but did not move. These beings are quiet, Elias said. But quiet is not the same as whole. The smallest of the three aliens began to tremble. Brit. The light flickered. Sereth noticed. Brit, interesting, she murmured. You disrupt the process. Because they're not empty, Elias said. Brit, they're still there. He turned to Sereth. You fear chaos, he said. Brit, so you erase difference. We manage it, she said. By making everyone the same, Elias replied. Brit, that's not unity. That's silence, Brit. For a long moment, Sereth said nothing. The chamber hummed with tension. Desperate. Finally, she raised her hand. The light around the platform faded. Brit. The three aliens collapsed to their knees, breathing hard. The guards moved to assist them. Brit. Sereth turned back to Elias. You interfere, she said quietly. That will be noted. I hope so, Elias replied. They left the chamber in silence. Brit. The next phase came hours later. Elias was returned to his quarters, but the room had changed. Desperate. The walls no longer responded to his movement. The soft hum had grown louder, pressing against his thoughts like distant thunder. Brit. Messages began appearing on the walls. Contradictory ones. Brit. Some praised humanity as strong and promising allies. Others warned of human instability and inevitable collapse. Brit. Images of Earth's wars played alongside images of human compassion. The Volari were flooding him with truth and lies together, forcing his mind to work overtime. Brit's sleep became difficult. When he closed his eyes, voices whispered, some familiar, some not. Brit. Doubt crept in, slow and persistent. What if humanity was wrong? Breath. What if control really was the only way? Elias sat on the floor, back against the wall, and breathed. Brit. He remembered a lesson from his training. Brit. Pressure does not define you. Response does. Brit. He began to speak aloud, grounding himself in reality. I am Elias Ward, he said. Brit. I am human. I choose. The whispers faded slightly. Brit. A message appeared without warning. Sereth's face formed on the wall, more tired than before. Brit. You are resisting longer than expected, she said. You designed this to break me, Elias replied. Brit. Not convince me. Yes, she admitted. The Council believes resistance reveals truth. And what has it revealed? Elias asked. Brit. She hesitated. That humans are, Brit. Difficult, she said. Elias smiled faintly. Brit. We've been called worse. Sereth looked away for a moment. The demonstration today, she said. Brit. You altered its outcome. They're still individuals, Elias said. That matters. To you, she replied. Brit. To anyone who remembers what it's like to choose, Elias said gently. Her eyes returned to him. Brit. Why do you care? She asked. You could walk away. Desperate reject the coalition and leave. 'Cause others can't, Elias said. Brit. And because power should be challenged. Sereth was silent. The council plans a public session, she said finally. But you will be questioned before multiple species. An interrogation, Elias said. A test, she corrected. Brit. Same thing, he replied. Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. Brit. You will be under extreme pressure, she said. They will try to expose contradiction, fear, weakness. I'm human, Elias said. Brit. All of that exists in me. That honesty may destroy you, she warned. Or it may free others, he replied. Brit. Sereth studied him for a long time. You are changing things, she said softly. Desperate. That is dangerous. So is pretending nothing needs to change, Elias replied. The image faded. Brit. Elias remained seated, breathing slowly. The pressure did not disappear, but it no longer felt overwhelming. Brit. He had named it. Understood it. Brit. Outside his chamber, the coalition prepared. Brit. They believed the next test would force him to bend. They did not yet understand that humans did not break under pressure. Brit. They adapted. And Elias Ward was ready for the public trial that would decide far more than his own fate. Brit. The day of the public session arrived with a quiet weight that pressed against Elias before he even stepped into the chamber. Breath corridors of the Valeri capital station stretched endlessly, a maze of curves and shifting lights, and the subtle hum of the station's engines was almost deafening in the silence. Elias walked steadily, flanked by 2 Valeri guards who carried themselves with measured elegance. Brit. There were no threats, no touches meant to intimidate. The pressure would come from observation, judgment, and expectation. Brit. The chamber itself was enormous, a vast circular space filled with representatives from dozens of species. Some floated slightly above the floor, others stood on extended legs, and a few, like the humans, walked normally. Brit. All eyes were upon him, curious, calculating, and expectant. At the center of the chamber, an elevated dais had seats for the council, a semicircle of Valeri leaders whose very presence radiated authority. Brit. Sereth Bal was already there, seated among the council members as if she belonged. Her gaze found his immediately, calm and unreadable. Elias returned her look, steady and unflinching. He could feel the weight of the entire coalition pressing toward him, not with swords or claws, but with scrutiny and expectation. Desperate envoy Ward, one of the council members said, a tall being with silver-scaled skin and eyes like molten metal. You have been observed for many cycles. Your species has responded, and usually to our methods. Yes, Elias replied calmly, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Brit. We respond as humans do, by thinking, feeling, and choosing our actions, the council murmured. Elias noted the subtle shift in their body language. Brit. The Valeri valued emotional influence, and he could see some of them struggling to maintain composure. Unusual, the silver-scaled being continued, means unpredictable. Brit. You have not succumbed to fear, nor have you submitted to pressure, yet you have interacted with our diplomats directly. Brit. You resist, yet you communicate. That is what humans do, Elias said. Brit. We survive by learning and adapting, not by surrendering. We acknowledge fear, but we do not let it decide our actions. Another council member, smaller and with translucent skin, tilted its head. Brit. You speak boldly. Is this defiance or arrogance? Neither, Elias said. It is truth, a choice between what is right and what is imposed. Sereth leaned forward slightly, her expression calm but thoughtful. Brit. She had already warned him that this trial would be extreme. She had not warned him that her own respect for his approach might be visible to the council. Brit. The session began in earnest. The council asked him questions designed to confuse, contradict, and provoke. Brit. Some asked about humanity's history of war and failure. Others asked about morality and whether humans could be trusted. Brit. Images of past human conflicts and triumphs appeared in the air around him, forming an overwhelming mix of truth and suggestion. Elias listened carefully. Brit. He did not flinch. He did not react emotionally. Brit, he answered honestly. When asked about human wars, he admitted mistakes, but he also emphasized recovery and resilience. When asked about morality, he spoke of choice, empathy, and understanding, insisting that strength was measured not by domination, but by the ability to act rightly, even under pressure. The murmurs in the chamber grew louder. Brit. The council expected him to falter, to contradict himself under the weight of observation and suggestion. Yet Elias remained composed. Brit then. Sereth spoke. Her voice was measured, clear, and carried across the chamber. Brit. Council, may I interject? All eyes turned to her. The room went silent. Brit, you see humanity as fragile, she said. Yet here stands a representative who neither collapses under scrutiny nor submits to fear. His calm is not weakness, Brit. It is discipline. His refusal to be manipulated is not arrogance, Brit. It is respect for himself and for others. The council members exchanged glances. Brit. Some leaned forward, studying Elias as though seeing him for the first time. Is this possible? One whispered. Brit. Yes, Elias said. It is not magic, Brit. It is experience, learning, and the choice to remain whole despite pressure. Another test began, more subtle than before. Brit, the chamber itself seemed to pulse, lights dimming and brightening, colors shifting to provoke anxiety and doubt. The images of human failure and success floated around him, whispers of criticism and praise filling the space. The other species in the chamber, many of whom were accustomed to the coalition's methods, began to shift nervously. The pressure was intended for him alone, yet it revealed cracks in those who believed in absolute control. Braylus remained calm. He counted his breaths. Brit. He reminded himself that fear did not have to dominate thought, that uncertainty could be faced without surrender, but that choice was a form of strength. Humans are unusual, one council member said quietly to another. Brit. They are resilient in ways we did not calculate, Brit. Sereth watched him with quiet satisfaction. She had doubted that anyone could withstand this trial, even herself, Brit. Yet here he stood, unbroken, a living testament to the unyielding nature of humanity. Elias spoke again. Brit. Your methods rely on control through expectation, on submission through fear. That works for many species, Brit. It does not work for humans. We are, Brit, difficult, yes. We are inconsistent, yes. But we are capable of choosing beyond the pressure imposed on us. A heavy silence fell, Brit. The council had no prepared response for this. They had studied humans extensively, yet no data or simulations had prepared them for this level of resistance combined with reasoned explanation. Brit. Finally, the silver-scaled member spoke. And what do you seek, human? Brit. To teach us? To challenge us? Neither, Elias said. Brit. I seek understanding, not domination, not submission. Brit. Just recognition that choice matters. Sereth smiled faintly, proud but careful. Brit. He has not broken, she said under her breath. Another council member asked, and if the coalition refuses recognition, Brit, if it continues to demand obedience? Elias met the gaze of each leader in turn. Then humanity will continue to choose, he said, Brit, and the truth will become evident. Power without consent cannot last. Brit. A murmur passed through the chamber. Other species shifted uncomfortably. Brit. The coalition had thrived on compliance, but the human envoy exposed that compliance was not guaranteed. Observation had revealed doubt, and doubt was dangerous. The session continued. But Elias's calm persisted. He answered questions with clarity, honesty, and quiet courage. He did not let pride, fear, or anger influence him. His restraint and understanding became a lesson in itself, visible to all present. Brit. Hours later, the session ended. The council adjourned without issuing judgments. Brit whispers filled the halls, speculation buzzing like a living thing. Observers spoke of the human envoy who had withstood the coalition's pressure without bending. Brit. Some felt admiration. Some felt fear. Brit Sereth approached him as he walked back through the corridors, her expression unreadable again. "You exceeded expectations," she said softly. Brit, or simply acted as humans do, Elias replied. She studied him. Brit, the difference is striking. Other species might see this as defiance. Brit, I see integrity. The council does not yet know what to do with that. Brit, Elias nodded. Brit, I do not seek to be more than a messenger. But I will speak truth where I can. She paused. Brit, there is a risk, she said. Your example may inspire others. Brit, it may even undermine some of our methods. That is not my goal, Elias said. But truth is stronger than pressure. Her eyes flicked to the side, thoughtful. I have never met anyone like you, she admitted. Brit, not in the coalition, not even in myself. Brit, you understand humans, Elias said. Not perfectly, Brit, but enough to see that we cannot be controlled like other species. A silence passed between them. Brit, she had given him insight, trust, and warning all at once. You will face more tests, she said finally, but you will no longer face them alone. I will not guide you openly, but you will not be entirely without support. Brit, Elias inclined his head. I understand. As they parted ways, the corridors of the station no longer seemed quite as oppressive. Breath. The chamber had tested him, exposed him to fear and pressure, and forced him to confront the weight of expectations. But he had remained human, unbroken and unwavering. Brit, and somewhere deep inside the coalition's networks, whispers began to spread. Humans were not weak, Brit. Humans were not easy to bend. They could not be unconsciously guided, and their strength lay not in brute force, but in the quiet power of choice. Brit Sereth watched him leave the chamber, her mind turning over what she had seen. Elias Ward, a single human envoy, had challenged centuries of control and methodical influence with nothing more than calm, honesty, and integrity. But the shift had begun, and the galaxy, quiet until now, was beginning to take notice. Desperate, the final day of the council sessions arrived like a slow sunrise over the endless expanse of stars outside the Valari capital station. Elias Ward walked through the corridors with steady steps, each echo carrying the weight of anticipation. Brit, today would not be just another test. Brit, the council members were silent, some leaning forward, some exchanging subtle glances. The other species were watching now with awe, curiosity, and cautious respect. Brit, they had never seen a species resist in this way. Sereth's gaze softened. Brit, she had seen many leaders, diplomats, and warriors in her lifetime, but none had faced the coalition's methods with such composure. You have not only endured, she said softly, you have altered perception. Brit, not with force, but with truth. Elias inclined his head. Truth is the foundation of dialogue. It is not the same as surrender. It is not weakness, Brit. It is the willingness to act rightly, even when threatened. A final silence descended. Brit. The council members conferred briefly, speaking in low, deliberate tones. The murmurs spread among the other species. Brit. Humanity's envoy had changed the narrative. Humans were not weak, not easily guided, not to be dismissed. Brit. They had choice, resilience, and integrity, qualities that could not be erased by subtle pressure or carefully designed trials. Finally, the silver-scaled council member spoke. "Brit, it is clear," he said slowly. "The human envoy demonstrates a strength we underestimated. Brit, not physical, not technological, Brit, but strength of character, of choice, and of moral reasoning." Seraph nodded slightly. "Brit, the evidence speaks for itself." Elias felt the tension ease, though he remained alert. He knew the trial was not just for him. It was for the perception of his species. Breath, every word, every calm response, every honest acknowledgement of fear and choice had built a new understanding. The council members stood, Brit. Their decision was not announced with fanfare, but with quiet acknowledgement. The coalition would no longer approach humanity as a species to be guided blindly. They would treat humans with respect, aware now of their capacity for reasoned resistance and ethical decision-making.